Hi everyone, Kathy Rose here. I'm going to talk to you about the astrological patterns for June 2024. And so you see on screen the Gemini mandala, and that's because we have a saturation of Gemini energy, particularly in the first part of the month. Gemini is an air sign, which deals with the intellect, our thinking, communication, our beliefs. And it's in the mutable modality, which is delightfully flexible and playful and lighthearted. So let's move into this and let's talk about the themes for June. So it doesn't surprise you, I'm sure. The first theme I have listed on here is that mental energy is going to be supercharged for this month. That's partially because we have a new moon in Gemini early in the month, and I'll show you that in a moment. But it's also because Jupiter is in Gemini, and that is expansing and supercharging our thinking and our beliefs. Jupiter will stay in that sign for a year. And as you see on screen, the image I've chosen, which illustrates this, is a dandelion, which has gone to seed, and the air currents are moving those little seeds through the air, and they're going to fly, and they're going to land, and then they're going to get planted. And isn't that beautifully symbolic of what happens when we affirm, when we say things out loud? Our thoughts, our beliefs are like these little seeds flying through the air. The next theme is say it, then do it. That is referring to the fact that Mars will move into Taurus about mid-month and stay in that sign for about 6 weeks. And Mars in Taurus grounds the energy, which is so nice when you have a saturation of Gemini. So Gemini can sometimes flit from one thing to another, can sometimes be just thought for the sake of thinking. But Mars in Taurus says, no, now you have to do it. And so that's going to be very helpful. And then the third theme later in the month, when we have the sign Cancer highly activated, is emotional nourishment comes in. So we start the theme with a lot of mental energy, and then we move into the practical, and then we move into the emotional nourishment. So let me show you what I mean. Oh, but first, I I wanted to share the image of the hummingbird because in some ways, when I see a hummingbird, I think of Gemini energy. In that the wings of the hummingbird are buzzing very, very quickly. It flits from one flower to the next, gathering nectar, like a Gemini's hungry mind that goes from one source of information to the next, gathering information. And the hummingbird just buzzes around, and it's beautiful and it's delightful. And it's so quick in its movements. And in a way, this all reminds me of Gemini. So I just thought I would share that. That's just my personal view on this, that the early part of June in particular feels a little hummingbird-ish for me. So let's talk about the new moon in Gemini, which is exact on June 6th, 8:38 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. This chart is set for Washington, D.C. And you'll see in the 11th house in this chart that there are 5 planets in Gemini. So this is the concentration I was talking about. We have Jupiter having just moved into the sign at the very late part of May, spending its time in that sign for a year, as I mentioned. We have Mercury in Gemini, which is exceptionally strong because it rules that sign. And then we have the Sun and Moon and Venus conjunct at the new moon, and those planets are square to Saturn. So this saturation of Gemini energy points our awareness to our thinking. And in the past, for many years now, I have called the Gemini new moon the affirmation moon because it draws our attention to the power of our thinking and of our beliefs. Now, if you've watched my videos for very long, you know I talk about this every single video. It's one of my core principles that we co-create our reality through our beliefs, through our thoughts, through the words that we say. The self-fulfilling prophecy says, be mindful what you tell yourself because you get to be right. And that is so very, very strong at this new moon in Gemini, especially because of the square to Saturn. Now, Saturn and Pisces squaring those Gemini planets will bring in the spiritual understanding, the heartfelt compassion, but the connection with the divine. It also adds some discipline and accountability. It says if you say something and if you give it a whole lot of energy and then it manifests, then you need to take responsibility for the fact that you energized and engaged it. Not to beat yourself up. I mean, this isn't designed to say you created that. That's bad. It is to just simply take responsibility for moving your energy into more positivity consistently, because we all have bad days. We all have moments when we say things and we're needing to vent. That's totally different than what I'm talking about here. So this new moon in Gemini takes some time to engage new thinking, to communicate from the heart, to actively engage in this principle of creating your reality. And so I wanted to illustrate that on the next slide here. Again, we have the dandelion gonga seeds. Now, what I hear from a lot of my clients when I'm in a consultation and I'm suggesting some potential mantras or affirmations to people based on what I'm seeing in their chart, I get a lot of feedback from people saying how easy it is for me to roll these affirmations, through the airwaves, how quickly I can come up with them. And that's because I have practiced for years and years and years. And it's part of my paradigm to think that way. And some people say, I wish I could do that. And I say, well, just practice. So what I thought I would share are a few key statements that are important to me to just start the ball rolling for you if you have problems coming up with your own affirmations. And probably the large number of you guys out there listening are already doing this. And so maybe if it is easy for you, you can be a role model for somebody else to share how you phrase things positively so they might do it. But one of my favorite affirmations that I'm using right now, and it changes, I go through phases, but one of my favorite ones now is to say the universe works in my favor. Short, sweet, to the point. It's not specific. It is not dictating how something works out. It is just stating with absolute clarity and confidence and power that the universe works in my favor. And so you can change that up if you want. You can rephrase it, but you can hear the core concept there, right? Another one that I like, because it's short, sweet, to the point, is to say, my life is blessed, or my life is filled with grace, or whatever situation you are focusing on is blessed. I say that for my children. My son is blessed, my daughter is blessed, or their life is filled with grace, because it is so clear and it is basic. And again, it's not controlling, it's not dictating what is happening or when or how it's happening. It's just saying the bottom line. I have used this for everything. So whether you use the word blessed or filled with grace or whatever other phrase you want to come up with, I love this one. Another one for me that is a core central belief is I am in the flow. I am in the flow at the right place at the right time. Things always work out for me. Whatever I need comes to me when I need it. Now, I've shared these before in other videos, but there is something about mixing this concept with the words on the screen and seeing the image that I've chosen, which is the dandelion seed flying through the air, getting ready to land and plant and grow. So I am in the flow. I am in the flow. Therefore, I am safe. I am exactly where I need to be, exactly when I need to be there. See how you can just change this up and let it move from there? And then the final one I wanted to share is that if you are trying to change an old belief that you have outgrown, and maybe it's not really working for you anymore, and you are moving into a new phase, we have to understand part of the purpose of an affirmation statement is to convince your conscious mind of the new belief. And so we have to be logical and we have to convince that mind part of ourselves about something new. Well, sometimes if you have an old belief or habit and you are changing it and you just state the affirmation stating the new habit, your mind is going to go, I don't believe that at all. Let's say you're saying, prosperity flows to me easily. And maybe in your entire life, you've really struggled with money. Well, if you say prosperity flows to me easily right off the bat, sometimes your mind is going to go, that's not true. It's never been true for me. So in order to convince your mind, I suggest to you and I offer up to you, begin your affirmation with, from this point on. I've used this one several times when I've come to that choice point, that new phase. So I might say, from this point on, abundance flows to me easily. From this point on, I am prosperous. I'm making a choice and I'm changing my paradigm. My conscious mind will listen to that and go, oh, okay, I see. We are now changing the programming. The subconscious hears that. The conscious mind opens up to it. So you see what I'm saying? I love that. From this point on. And then you'll get to a point where you're believing it and you don't need to say that. But I just wanted to offer these up to remind you, and also to remind you, if you are good at this, be a role model for somebody else to learn how to say more positive statements. All right, so then we go into the second phase of the month, and this is talking about when Mars enters Taurus. It enters on June 9th, and it will stay there until July 19th. And what we get with Mars and Taurus is this incredible power of patience and persistence. I love Mars and Taurus. I love it because it's going to ground and bring into the practical form all of that Gemini energy, which is buzzing around through the air. So I do want to alert you to a few dates here. June 11th, we get a very powerful signature of energy with Mars squaring Pluto. When Mars and Pluto work together, if you are mindful, if you are using this actively, knowing you are confident and strong and powerful, then you get the indomitable spirit. You get the ability to break through barriers. You get the ability to courageously develop whatever you want to develop in life. These are two powerhouse planets working together. Let me submit to you that this could be an incredible opportunity. Let me also suggest, if you listen to a lot of podcasts in astrology or other videos or Facebook posts or social media posts, you may hear more of an emergency message flowing with Mars square Pluto. You don't have to accept it. I certainly don't. I see Mars square Pluto and I know what's going to flow through me is power mixed with motivation. And then I get to choose if I use that well or not. Okay. If we scoot forward about a month, and I know this forecast is about June, but I want to tell you about an aspect happening mid-July. And the reason I want to tell you about that July aspect is because as soon as Mars enters Taurus, you can start being polished and refined with how you use this indomitable energy. And you're planting seeds that can come to fruition in mid-July when Mars conjoins Uranus. That is such a very strong, potent, wonderful energy potential. Mars conjunct Uranus is giving motivational drive and an action energy to freedom, to this awareness of being in the moment, to breakthroughs, to awakening. It is electrified with incredible energy, and you want to align yourself with that and understand you can ground this energy and use it for your highest good starting as soon as Mars enters Taurus on June 9th. And the next photo is the photo I took when I was in Sedona, Arizona many years ago. We were on a big hike. We had hiked all day and we were at the top of the trail somewhere. And we paused, and I saw these beautiful yellow flowers growing between two rocks. Just a tiny little crevice was there. And I thought to myself, just like it says on screen, even when we are between a rock and a hard place, we can bloom. I thought that plant had to be so strong, so focused. It had to have perseverance. It had to have creativity. And this to me is conveying to you what happens when Mars and Pluto work together, Mars and Uranus work together, those aspects I just talked about, and just Mars and Taurus in general. So align with that principle. Okay, so as we go into the third phase in June, now we start bringing in the Cancer energy and the emotional nourishment. June 17th, Mercury and Venus are going to enter Cancer, and then June 20th, the Sun enters Cancer, and we have the solstice. If you're in the Northern Hemisphere, it will be the summer solstice. If you're in the Southern Hemisphere, perhaps in Australia or New Zealand, you're going to have the winter solstice. But what happens when we have a season that begins, whether it's spring, winter, autumn, summer, we have Aries point activation. Aries point activation is when a planet hits 0 degree of a cardinal sign. And let me show you. The Aries point relates to our connection with the world. We're going to have this very strongly in the middle part of June when Mercury and Venus first hit the Aries point as 0 Cancer, and then the Sun hits it when it hits the solstice. So what this means, the Aries point relates to high visibility potential. This is when public projection becomes very strong. So for you personally, you get to shine. Be aware in that time frame when Mercury and Venus and then the Sun are hitting 0 Cancer. Your behavior gets to shine. What you model to the world gets to shine. So if you are acting kindly to people, maybe it's a genuine, heartfelt, loving smile you give to somebody in line at the grocery store. Maybe it's an act of kindness where you help them carry something heavy, or you pick up a piece of trash that somebody has littered and you throw it away, and somebody else gets to watch you do that. You get to shine. So please know that in that middle part of June, June 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, and really it begins June 16th and goes to about the 21st or 2nd, everything you do can be highly visible if you want it to be. So I don't want to say behave yourself. I want to say engage in letting yourself shine. Now, how it relates to the world, you never know. There could be some world events happening, some disclosures of information that has been hidden, some salacious behavior coming to the surface for people to see. We can look at how it relates to the world, but my emphasis on these videos is always, how do you incorporate this in your own life? So use that time frame to shine. And we have the full moon in Capricorn on June 21st, right after the solstice. So you see the sun is at 1 degree Cancer, the moon is at 1 degree Capricorn. Again, this is why I said the Aries point activation shining moment begins as early as June 16th and goes all the way till just about June 21st or 2nd with this full moon at the Aries point. It's in Capricorn because remember, Aries point is cardinal, 0 degree cardinals. It actually begins at 29 mutable and goes to 1 cardinal. But the cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn. So here in this full moon, we see the Cancer Capricorn. And moon in Capricorn says do something practical. So in a way, it's mirroring what I said earlier about say it and do it, which was referring more to Mars and Taurus with all that Gemini energy, but we get it again. Feel it and do it. Sense it and do it. You know, that's what this full moon is talking about. Moon in Capricorn says be practical, bring it down to the earth plane, make progress. But remember, you're going to be shining. You're going to be highly visible, especially those of you who are actively working your spiritual path, who are actively engaging your heart chakra. All right, so my final thoughts for the month of June. This is a photo on screen that was taken at a state park here in Virginia Beach of awesome moss. My favorite photographer, Shayla Craighead, took this when we were doing my photo shoot. And I just loved this mushroom that was in the moss because I love moss energy, and I am super intrigued by mycelium, which is I call it the Earth's internet, which is the communication system that flows down into the soil and communicates between all plants, the Earth's internet. And my final thoughts for June is for you to use this Mars and Taurus energy mixed with Jupiter in Gemini, mixed with everything else that's going on, and consider standing on the soil barefoot, standing on your grass or on the dirt or wherever you are, and let your energy flow through the chakras in your feet down into the earth and hook up with this Earth's internet, because you can receive information as well as just sensing all that activity that happens just underneath the soil. You know, the earth is a spirit that is alive. And when we hook into the Earth's internet, we receive information from other dimensions, the nature kingdom, for instance, the fairies, devas, elementals, the angels. Those are all flowing through the Earth's internet. So I wanted to leave you with that thought because we're in such an expansive time right now, and communication is the central theme for most of June. All right, so I send you love, I send you blessings, and I will see you in July. And by the way, those of you who sent good energy for my surgery, which was May 31st, I thank you so much. Your support and your loving thoughts have meant the world to me. All right, bye for now. See you at the next video.